Okay, tonight we are going to fill out your graphing guide notes. So we're going to go over a few different graphs and some characteristics of those graphs, and I'll show you some examples so you're ready to do some work with them tomorrow. A lot of this will be review, but make sure you copy down the notes as we go. The first graph we're going to talk about is a frequency table. And a frequency table organizes data in an easy-to-read table. You can see an example here, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But characteristics of this graph, you always want to have a title. You want to label your each column, and there's 3 columns always. And the last thing you want to make sure is you have equal intervals. And what I mean by equal intervals is when you look in this one, this graph's about average highs, and you look, it goes from 0 to 19. So if we're going to go up by 19, the next one has to go up by 19. So 20 to 39. 40 to 59. You can't go from 0 to 19 and then go from 20 to 100. That wouldn't work. You want to have equal intervals. Something else about the frequency table that you'll want to look at is if the average high happened 11 times between 0 and 19 degrees, that's where you put how often it happened. And then this column is a running total. And if you have room, you can write this on your notes. But this is a running total. So it's like saying, okay, I had 11 so far. Now from in 20 to 39 degrees, it happened 13 times. So far I have 11 plus 13, and that's where I get my 24. And when I go to 40 to 59, I add 4 more in, and I have a running total of 28. So this cumulative frequency means your running total. The next graph we're going to look at is a bar graph, and you want to use a bar graph when you are comparing things. First of all, let's look at characteristics of the graph. You always want to have a title. So in this example, it's the heights of the Flannery grandchildren. Always have a title. You always need to label the x and the y axes. So you have to say what you're putting on each axis. Again, you want to have equal intervals. So if you're going to go up by 20 right away, then every line has to go up by 20. If you're going to go up by 10, great. 1s, 5s, whatever it is, it just has to be equal. You want to have equally spaced bars. So you want the space between your bars to all be equal. You don't want huge gaps or really tight gaps. You want them all equal. And you want your bars equal width. You don't want any really skinny bars and then really wide fat bars. You want them all the same width so they all look the same. And then you label your bars along the x-axis. In this example, and I'll make this one a little bit bigger so we can see it, it's the heights of the Flannery grandchildren. So you can see they have labeled centimeters and they have the names, and you can easily see we're comparing all the grandchildren, and you can see that Brad's the tallest and Kara's the shortest. So it's easy to compare things and make some evaluations based on your graph because it's easy to see. The next one we're going to talk about is a double bar graph, and it's the same as a bar graph except we're going to make comparisons between 2 categories. So you're going to compare not only just one thing around each one. In this example, states, you're going to compare 2 things in each state. So the first thing you need is a title. You need to label your x and your y axes. Again, you need equal intervals going up. If this is going to go up by 1s over here, it has to go up by 1s every time. You want to have equally spaced bars. And again, if it's 2 of them, these 2 can touch on Arizona. That's okay. But you want to have equal spaces in between your double bars. And again, you want your bars to be equal width. And in a double bar graph, you need to have a key. So you can see this key here because you'll have 2 different color bars. So you need to have a key. In this example, you can see we're doing population change, and it's in 2 different years. The one bar is 1980, the one's 1990. So that's where we're comparing 2 different categories. The third graph is a line graph, and in a line graph, we're going to show change over time. So if you were in my social studies, we did a double line graph and showed change over time with temperature and precipitation. So this shouldn't be new, it should be review. But characteristics, you want to have title, you want to label your x and your y axes. Again, you need equal intervals. So in this example, you're going up by 20 every time. Every time you can't go up by 20, then 100, then 2. It has to be equal. And you always put your time along the x-axis. In this case, the time is, I'll make this graph bigger, the time is minutes, And you can see that sometimes it might be hours, sometimes it might be seconds, but your time or month, it might always has to go along the bottom, the x-axis. A double line graph compares the change in time over, or the change in two things over the same amount of time. So again, we're doing change over time, but you're comparing two different things. You need a title. You need to label your x and your y axis. Again, equal intervals. And as usual, your time will always go along the bottom, the x-axis. And then you need to have a key. Again, it might be color coordinated if you're doing two different color lines. This example down here is a little bit different than the one you have on your chart, but I want to show you can see it's daily high and low temperatures. Here's your key. You can see your red line is your daily high. Your yellow line is your daily low. You have labels, and you can see it's March 1st, March 2nd. You can clearly see it all. The last one we're going to talk about is a stem and leaf plot. This might be new or maybe you've seen it before, but it's a great organizer for when you have large amounts of information. Data is arranged by place value. So in this example, you can see the key down here. If the 6 is on the left side, and then this is the line in between them, and then the 1, that means you have a 61. So if we're doing student heart rates after doing 1 minute of jumping jacks, one student was able to do 61. No one did anything in the 70s. And then we had an 84, an 86, and an 88. You're just splitting up your place value. When we get into 3 digits, you have 151. That's how you would write that. Or 147 and 100 and 144. 147 and 148. Okay, that's how you split it up. Again, you need a title. You need to label your stem and your leaf. So right here you label your stem and you always label your leaves. And then you also need a key. So just like this key down here, they have the 6 with the line and 1 is 61. Always have a key. You can see like 124 would have happened twice. So like that would be one that happened more than once. You can see that 99 happened 3 times. So you can see that would be your mode if we were finding mean, median, mode. So we will use a little bit of stem and leaf plot. It might be something that's new to you. That is all the graphs we will cover in our graphing guide today. Bring your completed note sheets tomorrow, and we will do some activities with them. Have a good night, and I'll see you at class tomorrow.